calling the Joint Committee on Ways and Means and Agriculture and the Environment to order. Okay, this morning we're going to hear from the Department of Agriculture, who will be presenting their supplemental budget. Good morning.
Aloha and good morning, Chair Dela Cruz and
Aloha.
members. Is it okay to proceed?
Oh yeah, aloha.
Okay, thank you. The Department of Agriculture, my name is Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser. I'm the chairperson for the department. I have present with me our division administrators and branch managers of the department, and also the executive director from ADC. I'd like to summarize and highlight from our testimony before you. We have our mission statement stated on the first page of our testimony, and we continue to establish and maintain irrigation systems, managing agricultural lands, marketing and business development, preventing entry of invasive species into the state, pest and disease control and eradication, maintaining healthy livestock industries, rabies prevention, food safety, and quality assurance programs. We'll continue to move forward to advocate for all agriculture using whatever available resources we have to aid the agriculture and aquaculture industries in becoming an integral part of the state's economy. The coronavirus pandemic has affected operations broadly across the department in terms of curtailing field visits, limiting staff's exposure to the public, shifting to online forms of communication, purchasing additional equipment, supplies for barriers, physical separation, sanitizing and disinfecting facilities, and requiring key staff to quarantine after potential exposure for the virus. I'd like to highlight some of our accomplishments in the past year for land and water. We continue to work on Act 90 land transfers. Our staff and the Department of Land and Natural Resources meet monthly to review various agricultural land parcels for possible transfer. By reviewing the DLNR lease files, we look for compliance issues and performing site inspections. In spite of the pandemic, we were able to do 24 parcels representing 267 acres where we identified and transferred from DLNR to Department of Ag under Act 90. For ADC, ADC has selected farmers to occupy and cultivate the remaining over 200 acres of Galbraith lands. Also selected farmers to occupy and cultivate over 850 acres of vacant agricultural lands in Whitmore and Pa'ala'a area. Both locations, they have addressed criminal activity and also looking into and pursuing and initiating plan and design for the Christian Crossing Bridge, the NPDES permit for the Mana Plains on their Kauai lands, and both for all their lands, they've embarked in various reservoir, deep well, and water irrigation projects. For our efforts to support farmers and developing agricultural markets, in fiscal 21, our Ag Loan Division provided 17 agricultural loans totaling over $3.4 million. The loans were dispersed, included 10 COVID-19 emergency loans totaling over $471,000 to assist our farmers and ranchers to survive the economic downturn and adjust their operations to new markets. Through Act 151, Session Laws of Hawaii 2019, We received funding from the legislature for $100,000, which we applied to update the 2015 Hawaii statewide agricultural land use baseline in conjunction with UH at Hilo, their spatial data analysis and visualization research laboratory. We completed all the counties and one of the outcomes that we identified was that outside of the major decline in sugar production at the end of 2016, there was an overall increase of 7% in planted acres for all other crops from 2015 to 2020, with the largest gain in diversified agriculture. Diversified agriculture's acreage rose 22% in the last 5 years. Also, the legislature in 2020 provided the department $2 million to contribute to the increase in the state's GDP. $1.5 million of that money was used to administer the Grow Hawaii Agricultural 2021 initiative. We were able to award 6 awards, and each award was valued at $250,000. We continue to administer federal funds for 5 years between 2018 and 2021. Our specialty crop block grant awards totaled over $2.6 million to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops. Specialty crops are defined as fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, horticulture, nursery crops, including floriculture. We also received and are administering 2 consecutive years of micro grants for food security program, totaling over $4 million to increase the quantity and quality of locally produced food in food insecure communities. The marketing branch was able to deem over 625 proposals as eligible, and those proposals are pending USDA approval. We also were granted from the legislature $100,000 for coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds to provide emergency support to the hard-hit producers of the horticulture industry. Also, we were able to continue to reestablish our functions within our market analysis and news branch for data gathering and analysis. I previously mentioned that we received $2 million from the legislature in session 2020. Over $100,000 of that appropriation was also used to contract with USDA's National Ag Statistics Service to conduct a commercial agricultural expansion survey. And the survey assessed agricultural producers' interest in expanding their commercial production and to identify barriers to their expansion. Without the grant funding, the question was, if you were to receive $100,000, how would you be able to expand your business, your operation? Without receiving that grant, the surveys showed that 66.9% of the operations are interested in expanding their operations, and they could possibly do it within 6 months. With the state granting some support at $100,000, 88% of the producers that were surveyed said that they will be able to accelerate their expansion efforts. This survey field questions for over 1,000 producers statewide. The commodities branch of our Quality Assurance Division established an education program designed to help Hawaii's produce industry by aiding the produce farms and farmers to reach food safety, FSMA requirements, to access their markets, and to promote public health. The program offered training to the farmers that is required by FDA. On-farm readiness review training is free, it's non-regulatory, voluntary, confidential, and provides an assessment of the farm's readiness for the future produce safety rule inspection. The training has been offered to more than 400 participants statewide. For the invasive species and the environment, the plant quarantine branch continues to average over 99% of inspections of all aircraft, surface vessels, and associated cargo from Guam and other areas known to have brown tree snake. This year, we inspected 154 containers of Christmas trees with a 99% compliance rate. Only 2 containers required additional treatment, and this reflects the success of our partnership with the state of Oregon and the state of Washington for them to implement best management practices to pass Hawaii's quarantine requirements. The plant quarantine branch also transitioned from its outdated Invicta database to a new database that is called Kupono. And regarding coffee leaf rust, the department worked on outreach materials and distributed those materials to the public and also the coffee industry. A rapid response group organized by the plant industry has been meeting regularly with the university researchers and regulatory officials from USDA, APHIS, PPQ, and ARS, the Ag Research Stations of APHIS. We enacted an interim rule to restrict the inter-island movement of coffee plants, plant parts, green beans, and packing material, harvesting, and transportation equipment from areas that were started to be detected as areas with CLR or coffee leaf rust. The inter-island movement was required by permit. The department also in the past year continued the pesticide subsidy program for coffee berry borer, and recently executed a contract with the County of Hawaii to expand that subsidy program to include CLR. We're working with APHIS, PPQ, the University of Hawaii, and the National Plant Diagnostic Lab of the National Plant Board for options to safely import rust-resistant coffee varieties into the state through accredited micropropagation laboratories in the continental US under compliance agreements. Regarding coconut rhinoceros beetle, we continue to be the lead of a multi-agency effort to control CRB on Oahu. An important pathway of CRB is the uncontrolled movement of its host material. The department has provided, the department has prepared an interim rule to regulate CRB host material movement to slow the spread of the invasive pests within Oahu and to other islands. The pesticide branch continues to do outreach on pesticide safety. We focus the importance for worker safety. which we included worker protection standard enforcement to limited English proficiency clientele. We provided translated pesticide safety information to the LEP farming community, processed over 1,000 RUP use reports for 2020. Pesticides branch, registration and licensing section, licensed over 3,000 pesticide products for use in household, institution sanitizers, bug sprays, urban, structural, golf course, landscape, and invasive species control and conservation uses. We received approval from US EPA in May 2021 for an emergency exemption for a systemic fungicide to use on coffee to help control and treat coffee leaf rust. The animal division, industry division, continues with its work for disease surveillance testing of livestock and shrimp brood stock. The animal industry division has maintained the state's disease-free status for animal diseases of high consequence in livestock and domestic animals to animals and public health. In summary, the department's budget requests increased the general fund appropriation by over $4.4 million in fiscal year 2023. A large portion of these additions are the result of changing the means of financing of positions from special funds to general funds. Conversion of these positions will provide some relief to the pest inspection, quarantine, and eradication special fund and increase the fund's solvency. A major operating request is for the $800,000 in general funds, which will allow for expenditure of funds obtained from a settlement of a pesticide use violation for the creation of a pesticide disposal program that was a condition for the receipt of the settlement funds. The settlement funds were deposited into the general treasury in fiscal year 2020. Other general fund requests restore funding to some positions in various programs and provide funds for items that were previously funded by special funds that were abolished. Our capital improvement program requests a total of over $30 million, which includes funds for remediating tar at the Halawa Animal Industry Facility, development of the Royal Kunia Ag Park for small farmers, and various projects to improve agricultural infrastructure. That concludes my summary and highlights of our testimony. And I am Deputy Morris Ata, and our staff are available to answer any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Now, I wanted to ask, how many federal grant programs did the department apply for the past 2 years?
I would have to ask two people to come forward. First, Dr. Matthew Loke, who's the administrator of our Agricultural Development Division, and followed by Sharon Hurd, who is the Marketing Branch Manager.
Good morning, Chair De La Cruz, Chair Gabbard, and members of the committee. I am Matthew Loke, Administrator, Ag Development Division. Thank you for your question. In this past year, we applied for 3 federal grants. We were successful in 2 of them. The 2 that we were successful in relates to the so-called Farm and Ranchers Stress Assistance Network. We were successful in getting $500,000 to better understand stress and anxiety facing farmers and ranchers in Hawaii. The other one that we applied for federal grants was in conjunction with UHCTAR. There was a CHILL project, children's nutrition program, and that was for $10 million over 5 years. So we collaborated with them on that. We'll be working jointly with them on food security issues, but CTAR is the lead on that project. We also applied for a risk management education program. It was for about 40,000. We did not have success in that project. In the meantime, we are continuing to apply for other federal grants. I guess in this month and next month, we'll be looking at a project that will provide benefits to farm workers in Hawaii, and that is expected to allow Hawaii to reimburse our farm workers for COVID-19 related expenses up to $600 per farm worker. In addition to that, I will defer to Sharon Hurd. She has been working very hard on drawing down specialty crop grants as well as the micro grant program. So Sharon.
Thank you, Matthew. My name is Sharon Hurd. I'm the Business Development Program Manager in the Market Development Branch. Matthew's right. We have been working very hard. We're currently managing 9 federal grants. The ones we applied for in the last 2 years would be a total of 5. The Specialty Crop Block Grant Program for fiscal year 20. In 21 was the fiscal year 21 grant from the Farm Bill. But that year they added a grant for COVID-related projects. So we had 2 in the year 21, which was a little bit different. And then we had the 2 micro grants. So that total is about 6 million maybe. The ARPA funded grant we didn't apply for. That was appropriated to us by the ledge. So that's 100,000. And that was to help the floriculture industry stop their reliance on offshore propagation of germplasm. They're working with the 6 tissue culture laboratories, in the state to try to develop protocols for the local generation of tissue culture. And they learned that lesson from the pandemic when all the flights just cut off from Asia. And there are numbers. We were fortunate in that in December, NAS released their horticulture survey, and the dendrobium industry just tanked. They really just suffered big losses compared from 2018, 2019 to 2020. So this project was very well timed. That was 100,000. In fairness to the track record, the grants that the Market Development Branch handles are block grants. They're appropriated to us, deemed to us from the Farm Bill. So we actually get the grant. We're awarded the grant if we apply. So it's if you put in a reasonable project state plan that follows all the guidelines in the grants in the RFA, you get it. So we're very fortunate that we were able to apply for all the grants that the Farm Bill allowed for marketing, which was the specialty crop and the micro grants. So thanks.
Chair De La Cruz, can I also add to what was said for the farm worker grant? The department is also going to submit application to assist with the food worker grant. So the frontline grocery workers, meat packing workers. So Department of Agriculture is applying for two of the grants that fall under the Farm Food Worker Relief Grant. We're also implementing the FDA produce safety rule grant monies, like I mentioned in our highlights. And also maybe Todd Lowe can be called forward. We submitted a proposal to receive $200,000 for aquaculture. Todd, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Hello, committee. Yes, we submitted a proposal to USDA. It's a seafood processing proposal to help offset COVID expenses. We're waiting to hear if we received it. It's for $200,000. Thanks.
And Senator Chair Dela Cruz, also pending is a local food purchase assistant federal grant, which will allow the awardee to purchase local fresh foods and value-added products. And we are working closely with Department of Education, Randy Tanaka, to apply for that grant. That grant is has a deadline. It's sometime in April. Working with the Department of Education to provide additional funds to their cost per plate, so that they can afford to buy more local products across the state for their food service program.
Okay, is the department asking the congressional delegation for any type of appropriation requests?
No, we have not directly. We have been in touch with them on the grants that were mentioned previously. Our feedback and communication with them is how to improve the conditions and the guidance of the grant for Hawaii, because we have come across challenges with some of the requirements coming from USDA for a state like Hawaii. So we have been, most of our communications is sharing like how those grants, if they continue in future years, how they can be improved to provide better relief for Hawaii's farmers, ranchers, and producers.
Okay, but can the department meet with the congressional delegation and ask for specific appropriation requests? So when you're looking at water infrastructure, when you're looking at facilities, when you're looking at purchase of land, we have an aquaculture division, but we still don't have any aquaculture parks. So what you guys know what the needs are. Can you meet with the congressional delegation and specifically ask them to see if they can either earmark appropriations, or as they craft a farm bill, draft language in the farm bill so that Hawaii can access monies to make sure that we can meet some of our goals?
Yes, we will.
Okay, other questions, members? Senator Gabbard.
Yes, thank you, Chair. With the recent settlement by Monsanto, I think it was $12 million fine. What portion of that is going to go to DOA, and when will you expect those funds to arrive?
Thank you for the question, Chair Gabbard. We are anticipating $1.5 million settlement. We're working to establish to receive the settlement. I'll ask Greg Takashima, acting pesticide branch manager, if he can give you an idea of when we anticipate to receive the award. Greg?
Good morning, chairs. Good morning, committee. My name is Greg Takashima. I'm the acting pesticides program manager. To answer that question, we expect so all of the documents were submitted to the courts back in, I believe, the second week of December. So it's going through the process. And that money will be, we've sent out the request to the comptroller to set up the trust fund. So all of the, the background work and stuff like that is getting done. So we should see that money, I would assume, around February or March is my best guess.
And do you happen to have the breakdown of that 12 million, how much the feds came back to the state?
Sure. I do believe that the Department of Land and Natural Resources received 1.5 million. We received 1.5 million. The Department of Health received 1.5 million, their Environmental Management Division. And I believe one other department, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Also, in terms of the loss of the barrel tax, Chair, how much did you lose on that, and how are those programs and activities being funded now?
Thank you, Chair Gabbard, for that question. I believe that we had a balance of maybe $6 million. We had a ceiling of approximately $3.4 to $3.8 million. So when we lost that, we received some replacement in general funds, but not to the same level of what we had for our barrel tax. Yeah, so we're really on a really tight budget. We're really watching what our general fund appropriations were, and our supplemental budget request includes funding that we only received for this current fiscal year, and we don't have funding appropriated for the supplemental budget year.
And Governor Ige, he set a goal of doubling our local food production first by 2020, then changed it to 2030. Where are we on that, Chair? And have we met the goal? And
I will also call up Dr. Matthew Loke back again. Last session we presented to you that for the past 10 years between 2010 and 2018, I'm sorry, we were measuring 89% increase. We know that we have some reduction because of the pandemic. So I'll ask Matthew Lowe to come forward to give us an update. He has been, he and the staff in the marketing analysis branch has been trying to update information.
Chair Gabbard, thank you for the question again. As Chair Shimabukuro Geiser has mentioned, we were up 89% when we compared back to 2010 as the base. So in 2019, we were up 89%. In 2020, because of the coronavirus pandemic, we were down about 10%. So that's where we are at right now. Are there any good news to report? Well, we were reporting on 8 different categories of food items, and one of the food item that was included was poultry eggs. I'm happy to report that we have increased production of poultry eggs in the state, and that will lift up the value of production in 2020 as well as in 2021. So that's a good spot in the ag economy.
okay, my additional question is, have we actually established the baseline data to know how much local food production that we're starting with in order to know how much is needed to double local food production?
Yes, we have established a benchmark set of information that includes 8 different categories of food. I can send you more information if you like.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Lowe, if you can send it to the committee and we'll distribute it.
Sure, I will do so, sir.
Okay, members' questions? Senator Rhodes.
Thanks, Chair. For Chair Shimabukuro, with regard to the Christmas tree inspections, I realize it's not the DOA's kuleana to look for fireworks, but if you stumble across, if you just happen to see what you think, your inspectors happen to see what they think might be illegal fireworks, what's the procedure? Who do you tell? How does that work?
Thank you for the question, Senator Rhodes. I would like to call forward Jonathan Ho from the Plant Quarantine Branch. Jonathan?
Okay. Good morning, chairs and members of the committees. My name is Jonathan Ho. I am the Inspection and Compliance Section Chief for the Plant Quarantine Branch. So to answer the question regarding, the discovery of, illegal items such as fireworks within a container, if it were to occur, we would basically leave the container on hold and refer it to the appropriate authority, most likely the Honolulu Police Department. And obviously, because that is not something that we have jurisdiction over. We have had other cases of similar items where, the staff have come across things that were, obviously not our jurisdiction, but illegal. And we refer them to the appropriate agencies. We have had staff find drugs, for example, at FedEx, and we refer that to the appropriate authorities, and then they take it over from there.
Can I also ask just a logistical question about, Chair said that you are working with, I think, Oregon authorities about how to keep, to monitor Christmas trees coming in. How do you pick out, do you already know beforehand which containers are going to have Christmas trees in them before they arrive? And then sort of the second question is, then what do you do if you already know, then how do you deal with where are they separated, and where do you look at and where do you open them up?
Yeah, so statutorily, inspections are conducted at the ports of entry, and we work with the transportation companies who identify those particular containers for inspection. They have, tariff codes and things like that. So we work with Matson and Pasha to identify containers well beforehand. They have the bookings and things like that. So we kind of have a schedule. And what we will do is we'll work with Matson and Pasha. They will provide, they basically stage all the containers in a separate area within the container yard. And we conduct.
So where is that physically? So down on Sand Island somewhere off the dock?
They're done on the dock.
On the dock. Okay.
Yes.
So they take them off the ship, you open them up right there, take a look, see if there's any bugs, and then close them back up and send them on their way. Is that the way it works essentially?
Correct.
Okay. But it's never random. You're not randomly checking, every 15th container to see if it has Christmas trees in it. You know already which ones have them.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, chairs. Thank you.
Members' questions? Senator Tigwait.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, my technical issues, but my question is, of the settlement monies, Chair, how are you guys willing to address a pesticide take back due to the fact that inherited farms, kids that have taken over those farms are now seeing on either restricted use pesticides or pesticides in general? Are you willing to use some of those monies, and what would it cost to do a pesticide take back program?
Thank you, Senator Decoit, for your question. I'll have either Greg Takashima or Victoria Matsumura answer. Our intent, or original intent for the disposal program was to include that need, but I'll have Greg or Victoria address your question.
Good morning, Senator DeCoy. To answer your question, the settlement does allow for the use of the 1.5 million, and it does specifically state in the settlement that it may be used for disposal. And then, so yes, that is one of our goals, is to start up and set up the pesticide disposal program. Now, for the to answer your second question and about how much it costs, the last time we did this, and this predates me, so I'm remembering off the top of my head again, but I believe it costs anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000 for approximately 1 year program, and that was the pilot program back in, I think, like 2007 or somewhere around there.
So since you guys did a 1 year program, we do like the prescription take back. What if you were to shrink it into a 30-day program? No questions asked, return of those, because we're having problems with people dumping these pesticides either in the landfill or dumping them in the streams. What would the cost be if we narrowed it to 30 days? So that way, those that don't feel as they're starting to clean out their houses, their farms, not take them and just dump them. We had an incident in Mexico where they dumped it right in the river. Would that make a bigger difference in cost-wise, a 30 days take back?
From what I understand, the last program was, they were open, I believe, for between 1 to 2 weeks, the centers and the acceptance areas. And then those, it kind of rotated between counties from where they were accepted. But leaving the center open was within the ideas that have been thrown around thus far, that for the pesticide disposal program. I honestly don't know the cost of it, but we can definitely look into it.
Yeah, can you find out?
Yeah, sure.
Just because, I think it's so important, when you're looking at a settlement like this on pesticides, that, people want to get rid of them, and to get rid of them in other areas that can impact, our resources is not good. So thank you. And then Chair, what was the reason for the losing of the barrel tax?
No, so last year we removed all special funds because we needed to supplement the general fund. So similar to HTA, where they no longer are going to get dedicated funding, that was the case also with Department of Ag. So that allows both departments to have to come to the legislature and ask for appropriations.
Okay, thank you. Chair, can I follow up with one more question?
Yep.
Due to the severity and then of deer encroaching upon farms and ranches, the emergency proclamation that stands today, as we saw the briefing that was done with DLNR and the line of questioning, it is apparent that DLNR is putting up fences to protect the forestry, which is the original and natural habitat of an axis deer, which now puts an encroachment down on the farms and the ranches. And as we start to put fences up, Halakala Highway would now be a highway for deer to be running through. Are there measures you guys are considering taking in collaboration with DLNR DOFA to address the seriousness of the deer situation in the county of Maui?
Thank you, Senator Decoit, for that question. As you know, our veterinarians do work on the livestock issues, and Dr. Moniz and Dr. Maeda have been in contact with DLNR. One of our requests is to get general funds for this coming year to replace the chair's office's barrel tax that was removed. And part of that is funding to address projects like invasive species and animal disease, pest disease. And one of the considerations that we proposed to governor was, whether or not there needs to be a project to help the farming community, like how the conservation lands are protected from feral ungulates. So I understand, the plight that that Maui County is dealing with access deer. Over the year, we also were hearing through our veterinarians on the Big Island that the Big Island has some issues with different ungulates. But to pivot back to Maui County, we did ask and governor did support our budget requests for $900,000 to the AGR 192 to address multiple needs that we're hearing from the community related to climate change, plant and animal disease, and then also drought-related problems that are affecting production.
And just a follow-up, Director, in regards to drought relief, invasives, and then disease in general, while we have a serious problem, TB has surfaced again on the island of Molokai, first from cattle. Of course, pigs were part of it. Twice eradication of the entire island of Molokai. Now it has resurfaced it back, stemming now from east to west of that island. The talk that we've discussed was there would be no further eradication of these animals, but to be spot checked, assessed. Do you folks have priorities on how you folks will continue on? Because the spot checks, I think we have deemed 4 different branches and a piggery to euthanize those herds. Do you folks have an ongoing plan that will insert within your folks' budget or requests of the individual person on the ground that will have to address those issues, to take a look at the carcasses, to examine, as well as a holding area on this continuance? And I know that the mainland is not doing eradication, also to just entirely wipe out the tuberculosis. Do you have something like that set up or requests?
Thank you for that question, Senator. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with invasive pests and disease, we can't tell beforehand when it's going to appear, whether we'll be able to control it and eradicate it by a specific date. So when we went in to set up our budget requests, we thought at that time that the bovine tuberculosis situation was not going to be where it is today. So, our budget requests unfortunately didn't reflect or didn't keep up because of the deadlines, how to move forward on where bovine tuberculosis status is right now. I'll ask either Dr. Moniz if he's available, if not Dr. Maeda, to be called forward to explain the plan. But we know there's a need, which unfortunately we couldn't include in our budget requests, but there's a need to set up a quarantine station on state land to address the bovine tuberculosis on Molokai. And also, we are deploying our veterinarians statewide to Molokai, rotating for the testing. So, there is a need because the disease has advanced greater than we anticipated for personnel. Is Dr. Moniz available to discuss the plan? Or Dr. Maeda?
Hi. Good morning, Chair Gabbard and Chair Dela Cruz and members of the committee. Senator DeCoit, one of the problems I think that we've dealt with on Molokai is that there's no staff permanently located there, and there's no facility really set up there either for quarantine and to deal with routine inspections. So it's always a matter of trying to move cattle to areas for testing and, not having food in this kind of situation, especially with the drought. So it would be ideal if we could set up some kind of facility and have permanent positions that are actually on the island. Right now, we have a federally funded part-time position that's filled with a livestock inspector on island, but it would be best to actually have a permanent, at least a livestock inspector, and even better yet, a veterinarian. And the reason for that is the actual testing of the cattle for the tuberculosis has to be done by a veterinarian. And the other thing is that would also improve the ability and timeliness of collecting samples, submitting samples to the laboratory, monitoring movement of animals, and quarantine and all those type of activities that we do. So we have asked USDA APHIS to increase their cooperative agreement that we have with them in that area to try and at least get some extra funding for a livestock inspector, but we don't know how that's going to go. That's been sent up to the USDA food chain, so we'll see what that develops. But from the state side, I think that one of the issues in controlling tuberculosis on that island is that we've never really had full-time people there all the time to deal with it. And the drought just made it worse.
So Dr. Maeda, with that, is the access there susceptible also to the TB, knowing the vast amounts of herds that are there?
Yeah, in the past, wildlife surveillance did find it in, feral pigs. They did find it in access deer. There hasn't been, the recent wildlife samples that were done haven't identified it in access deer, but historically they have been able to get it. And, fencing and those kinds of things are necessary for that island to try and help the producers as far as keeping the deer out and the feral swine and that kind of thing. So yeah, it is a concern. We're trying to engage wildlife services from federal side too, through our APHIS area veterinarian. And the reason for that is our area is actually, agriculture and what have you, and we can do, some of the sampling and what have you with wildlife, but wildlife really needs to be a part of the solution, because if they're constantly going to be infecting livestock, then we need a way to determine what are the infected animals, where they're at, and how best to deal with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Okay, Senator Gabbard.
Thank you, Chair. In your commercial ag expansion survey, could you just give us a quick overview of the barriers to expansion that are faced by farmers?
Thank you very much for that question, Chair Gabbard. I'll have Dr. Matthew Loke present the findings.
Chair Gabbard, thank you again for your question. We have a whole list of findings. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, just a quick view. That'd be fine.
The barriers if I can recall right off the top of my head, the major barriers for high cost of production. The second one was insufficient labor. And then also high cost of shipping. Those were the three items that come to mind. We have written up an analysis actually, and I could share that with you.
Share that with the committee, please.
Yes, definitely.
I can add to that because I do have the report that Dr. Loke did provide me, which is a fact sheet. So the leading barriers for expansion, 58% said it was the high cost of production. 41% said it was a shortage of labor. 39% said the cost of shipping and transportation. Insufficient access to capital was 37%, and not enough cash flow was also 37%. So that will be included in the fact sheet created by Dr. Loke and the employees at the branch.
Okay. And secondly, Director, could you give us some specifics on the funding for support for research, extension, and education activities to improve sustainable and organic farming in Hawaii?
Thank you for that question. So, during the IGE administration, the department has used its barrel tax funds to support Hilo's organic research and production, outreach, and education. I don't think we'll be able to sustain that support because we no longer have that fund. And we are asking for general fund requests, but there's also other needs that are competing. And so whether we'll able to continue supporting Dr. Radovich and the program there at for organic production and research, it might be a reduced amount, or maybe depending on whether there's any other disease and invasive pest issues. I can't guarantee for sure at this time.
Okay. And finally, could you give us the status of the Hawaii hemp program?
Oh, okay. So I'll call Dr. Leo Ubaldo forward. He can give you the latest metrics for the program. Even though we no longer process applications for production, we are monitoring with USDA the number of licensees in the state of Hawaii.
Good morning, chairs and members of the committee, and thank you for that question, Senator Gabbard. I'm Leo Baldo, Acting Administrator of the Quality Assurance Division. An update of the hemp activities for the Department of Agriculture includes we have a proposed bill to amend the Act 14 to make sure that the regulatory authority for its DOA responsibilities regarding hemp production will continue. And then we have also a program specialist for hemp that is currently in recruitment to act as the primary point of contact for the HDOA hemp program and subject matter expert for helping the hemp production industry here in Hawaii. And we do have also, we're working on the approval of documents to conduct public hearing on the proposed new rules, Chapter 4-161.1, entitled Hemp Production. And then we continue to collaborate with the USDA as they are now responsible for licensing Hawaii growers here in Hawaii. And currently there are 78 Hawaii hemp growers that are licensed by the USDA as of October last year.
How many? 78?
78.
78. Okay. All right. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Chair.
All right.
Senator Nishihara.
Yeah, Director, I have a couple of questions going back to the bovine tuberculosis issue on Molokai. You know, the animals, they're going to be individually checked out. The whole herd's going to be checked out. Is that what they're going to be doing?
I'll ask Dr. Maeda to explain our testing process protocols.
Yes, Senator Nishihara, thanks for the question. The animals are tested by a skin test, initial screening tests, and then if they react to that, it's similar to an intradermal test that you would get if you're getting an allergy test. And if they have a reaction to that, then we do a comparative cervical, which identifies whether or not it is actually potential Mycobacterium tuberculosis or it's a avian species. And if it's identified as a reactor, then those animals are going to be euthanized and then sampled, necropsy done to look for lesions. And lesions if we find lesions that are consistent with TB, then what happens is those things are all samples are sent into the National Veterinary Lab and they will give us a definitive diagnosis.
So the animals that turn out to be positive, that I assume you're not able to treat them like you would do for some other tuberculosis patients, those animals will be culled out and disposed of?
Right, and depending upon the situation, we have to have these discussions with USDA, cattle health, but if the herd is of small enough size, and usually the ideal situation, although not ideal for the producers, that the entire herd will get depopulated in that sense, because that way you eliminate any potential for the disease remaining in the herd. And then the herd itself, the operation goes through a cleaning and disinfection period. There's a herd plan that has to also get approved through USDA. And then what happens after that is, the quarantine after that, once all the conditions are met, can be removed, and then they can go ahead and, repopulate the farm.
So those animals that have to be taken out and disposed, are the bodies burned, buried? What do they do with them?
There's a lot of different methods to do that, but generally they're buried, or they can be composted, or they can be denatured. All of those are alternatives. Those are probably the most direct ways at dealing with the disease. In some instances, if there are no lesions, then those animals can be inspected at slaughter, and they can be actually put up for commercial use because they're disease-free from an inspection standpoint.
So it's the veterinarian, they'll determine which one the meat of the animals are still good?
Right, USDA Food Safety Inspection Service, or FSIS, is the one that inspects the slaughter.
So the animals that do get culled out in that manner, are the ranchers compensated for the loss thereof?
With the depopulation procedures in place, it's a procedure that we work with USDA, and they have a calculator that they indemnify the rancher for, the heads, depending upon size, age, weight, that kind of thing. And it's it's a process, but yes, they are indemnified. Not to the extent of, having a market level type of payment, but it is based on the USDA's calculations.
So the ranchers are given some recompense for the loss of the animal then.
Yeah, they do receive some indemnity.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
Members, any other questions? I just had a question for the Market Development Branch.
Senator?
Thank you. How many trade shows did the branch participate in or coordinate? And what were the impacts on sales from the companies who participated?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's trade shows for the entirety of 2021 were canceled for in-person with the exception of one. Gulf Food in Dubai was conducted. Let's see, Anuga in Germany was conducted. The Department of Agriculture did not participate in either, but we did have a presence as far as WUSADA, as far as sales results. The virtual shows did result in some sales. I'm going to say it total maybe, it's a wild guess, but it's about 3 million.
If you don't have to guess. If you can take the time to go over the trade shows you participated in the last 5 years.
And this
then
would
give
be
us,
the last 5 years? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I will have something for you there.
and then what were the sales results as because of the participation of the farmers?
Thank you. I'll have that for you.
Chair, I have a question.
Oh, I can't see.
Oh, this is Bennett.
Oh, Senator Misalucha.
Aloha, Chair. Shimabukuro Geiser. Just wanted to get an update on monitoring parakeet efforts to control them. It seems like I was checking the appropriations request, and it doesn't seem like we're allocating resources towards that effort. So have we just kind of given up in the meantime, or do we have enough resources?
Thank you for the question, Senator. There was a little glitch in my audio. You're referring to the parakeet, right?
Right, rose-winged
Okay,
parakeet, because
okay.
it seems like it's a bane, not just to farmers, but even around Oahu now, they're really just propagating. So to the extent that we can control that population, I think it's worth the effort.
Yes, we have had one of our staff on Kauai be part of a working group. And I believe that the USDA or either the Interior had assigned a person to work on some kind of control method. With the reason why there's no request in our budget is historically we used to fund those type of requests through the agriculture pest quarantine inspection, quarantine, and eradication special fund. That fund is now 100% required for us to cover all the personnel in our plant industry division. So, previously a majority of them were general funded. With the conversion of all of those plant industry employees being converted to that special fund, we don't have the discretion, or we don't have the funds to fund those kind of projects. So I'll have Becky Azama give you an update on what our staff in Kauai has been doing, and if she's aware of any updates regarding the control for the parakeet. I just want to add that part of our budget request is to transfer 23, I believe, personnel from that special fund back to the general fund, so that special fund can be sustaining. Becky, can you come forward? Can you allow Becky Azama to come forward and report what you know from what we've been hearing from our Kauai staff's participation?
Good morning, chairs and committee members. Thank you for the question. And on Kauai, our noxious weed specialist has been involved with the working group committee for the rose ring parakeet. And he has presented information that there is a group that is responsible for doing control, and they have been researching different methods. It appears that this parrot is quite smart, and after a few attempts, they avoid coming back to the same location. So they're still working with trying to find the best way to control these parrots, but the working group is still in, I guess, in working together. So that's the latest, and this was from November. I got some information.
Okay. So Chair, just wanted to be sure we're not being penny wise, pound foolish. And I guess, so just wanted to be clear, or wanted to clarify that the intent is to allocate the resources after that working group has come up with a plan on how to better control it, correct? It seems like that's what I'm hearing, because I hope we're not just giving up on it, right? Because albeit there's no funds allocated this, but perhaps there's some, hope on the horizon with this working group.
I would ask Becky to confirm, but I think that right now that working group, is it funded by federal funds, because there was a federal employee kind of leading the project, and I don't know if the county of Kauai has put in funding for that. As far as the department, we're going to have to look at what resources we have available to support projects, and that's what we've been doing this current fiscal year. Our priority is to cover our payroll, because there's been a significant change in the way we pay our personnel expenses, and that's impacted our other current expenditures and our ability to take on new things. So, but we definitely have our eye on the problem, and we will note your requests, and if our resources are available, we'll try to support.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to be apprised about the extent of the work that's being done on that on the Kauai working group.
Thank you. We will.
Hello.
Thank you.
Senator Gabbard.
My final two questions, I promise, Chair. Director, I stopped in on a Zoom meeting last month with Senator Lee over in Waimanalo side, and they were discussing little fire ants and coqui frogs, and so I was wondering whether there's a need to raise the invasive species fee to deal with these critters.
Thank you for that question, Senator Gabbard. Just looking at our projected cost of that special fund, Now that we have to cover employee personnel costs and their fringe, it's draining that special fund. And so that fund is currently, the fee is currently assessed at 75 cents per 1,000 pounds of cargo. And it's not all cargo, it specifies in the statute. And I think we did a quick check, and I think that that fee hasn't been adjusted in 10 years. It might have been, the 75 cents was probably put in statute around 2011. You know, in order for us to sustain that special fund, we're gonna, if we have to cover personnel costs at the level we're doing now for plant quarantine, and especially plant quarantine inspectors, yes, we're gonna need more revenue coming in.
Okay. And also, finally, on your ag loans, your ag loan portfolio, can you just give us a summary of the number of loans that you've made and the, the total amount collected in terms of interest and premiums from the loans?
Okay, thank you very much for that question, Chair Gabbard. I'd like to call Ag Loan Administrator Dean Matsukawa forward to give you an update.
Good morning, Chair Gabbard. The amount of loans we have is 153 loans in the portfolio. It's $24.8 billion out there. We currently have about $6 million in the fund available for loans. Only about 4.2 is available. The rest is loans already committed in the fund. Loans that we have been doing, last year was about 3.4 million we loaned out with 17 loans. And the prior 2 years is running about 4.5, 4.7 million. Our collections on principal run about $2.6 million a year. And interest collected is about 850,000 annually.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you.
Senator Nishihara.
Your director, the animal quarantine station that was under the control of the DOA, right?
Yes, it currently is, Senator. Thank you.
Yeah, so has the operations been moved to a different site now?
No, it hasn't. But we're currently still in Halava with the proposed relocation of OCCC to Halava. We're just going to be moving to a very smaller footprint on the same property, and most of our kennels are going to, and the area that we have kennels are going to be used for the expansion and the relocation of OCCC. So we'll still be in that same area. We just have a very reduced footprint. Dr. Maeda can probably tell you, give you an idea of the reduction in the scale of the footprint based on the reduction in the kennels that we're going to be occupying. Dr. Maeda, can you provide Senator Nishihara that information?
Sure. The animal quarantine station, as it currently exists, was constructed with about 1,400 to 1,600 kennels. And the new facility, due to reduced population at the station, will be downsized to something closer to 150 kennels.
With the people giving up their animals, has it put pressure on the site to take in these animals?
I'm not clear on your question. Are you talking about animals that get abandoned in quarantine or?
Right. So is it, whether these animals would have ended up in quarantine there, is it putting pressure on the site for taking in these animals?
The quarantine station currently deals with, actually, it's not a high number, but there are a few pet owners that abandon their animals in quarantine, and then the program has to make arrangements for these animals. And usually once all of the quarantine entry requirements are met, what happens is the station tries to adopt the animal.
Okay, so the transferring of from the site you have to a smaller one, are you receiving any kind of funding to help you? Is it coming out of the DOA's budget?
I think I'll address that, Senator Nishihara. Thank you for that question. We have requested in our CIP planning and design for the relocation of our kennels. So it's in our budget. What we did benefit from was when the PSD and DAGs worked on the environmental impact statement for that entire location. We were included in that process, so that was a big benefit to us because that saved the department monies to do a EIS for the new footprint. We are asking in our current CIP request for $2 million for to start planning and design for the new station.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Sharon, I had a quick question again.
I am, okay, I should be there.
Okay, does your program partner with DBED at all on trade shows or any external out-of-state programs?
Thank you, Chair Del Cruz. We do, in fact, I know I can't start my video. Sorry about that. My computer is shimmering right now, but yes, that's a good question because with the direction we got at the beginning of 2020 that the state funds would be limited, we did partner with DBED on the state trade and export promotion, the STEP grant, and that thankfully they funded we were able to get $183,000 as a subaward, and that was for Gulf Food and FoodX and IFEA, which we have a cash match on that for about $40,000. So we partnered on that. And we also helped them, we collaborated and supported when the pandemic started with the Buy Hawaii Give Aloha website that advertise those Hawaii companies that have a webinar presence for e-commerce. And we were able to give them all of our links for the Seal of Quality and Made in Hawaii with Aloha members. So that's about the extent of our partnership with DBED, except that we do support them on their research that they do, surveys and things. Sorry, my video is not working.
No, we see you.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I'm just hoping that in the future, DBED and your division or your branch can partner more strategically with for upcoming projects.
Sure, I agree.
Not just wait for another pandemic for us to require to participate, to partner.
Okay, well taken, well received.
And then Phyllis, other than Go
Yes.
Farm, which is a CTAR program, does Department of Ag support the scaling of, or how does Department of Ag support the scaling of medium or small to medium to large farms?
We do it through our existing program. So we do have, of course, our ag leases, and ADC is, transitioning to providing opportunities for people to apply to get ag leases. Ag loan program has a new farmer, a trainee loan program, and I believe that we have in the past also given loans to students, ag
Okay,
students.
but there's no training per se then.
No, because we kind of are more into the regulation, our education and outreach. We partner to educate and train people to meet our regulations, our requirements. We do partner with Department of Labor Industrial Relations. They have an ag workforce development board there, so we have a seat on that board, and we try and help them that way, and work with CTAR.
Yeah. But a lot of the programs you're talking about, people either stumble upon them or they hear it through word of mouth. What I was kind of wondering is if there's someone who wants to get into farming, or they're an existing farmer, is there a farm ag 101 in Hawaii that talks about the leases, the loans, general food safety, just so they can get the overall picture, not just only when they apply for a loan do they get the training for that?
We are working with ADC at the last 2 ADC board meetings, and we can expand beyond ADC's licensees, but we were going to try and get a fact sheet out, a 1 or 2 pager of all the services available at the department for new farmers, so that they have a 1-2 pager to show all the program and the links and phone numbers,
Yeah.
contact. Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is if the department understands that the average age of a farmer is, toward the end, not necessarily young, what can we do to ensure a pipeline of farmers? And does the Department of Ag have a strategic plan for that?
Yes, one piece of our strategic department strategic plan was to create a farmer trainee program within the ag loan program, where we would do a matching funding with a startup producer, and then also try and help them, work with them, get their data, and then also help them, mentor them on how to improve on their business plan and cash flow management, things like that. So we did introduce a bill in the previous sessions, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it was considered a fiscal and an appropriation request, and didn't get much legs or traction to it.
Okay, so you're not reintroducing that this year?
No, we did not reintroduce it this year. We can share the bill that we tried to introduce for your information.
Okay. I'm just not sure how the department is approaching developing more farmers, new farmers, and then helping existing farmers scale up. And I'm kind of not sure, but I guess maybe whatever we can look at the bill that maybe you can send that over again.
Yeah, yes, and I mean, we do have a memorandum of agreement with Hawaiian Homelands on a ag loan program too, to assist with their beneficiaries. But most of the workforce development, we work through partnerships with the lead agency for labor, and then the leads for education. We've always worked through CTAR, but we can even start expanding the sharing of our information with the community colleges.
Okay, I guess my last question, how you started out on the ag commercial expansion survey.
Yes.
So now that you have the data, what are the programs that you're going to develop or enhance to meet the needs of what the survey showed?
So we just got the results, the data from USDA, and Matthew Loke put together the fact sheet, just last month. So we meet with CTAR on a regular basis. We're going to try and work with them on getting economic information regarding soil suitability, information on the potential of crops grown here locally that can compete with mainland imports into the state, and try and give them that information so that they can make better decisions on where they want to grow and what they want to grow and what works better with irrigation and not.
Okay.
So
maybe you
those are,
can send us a copy of that.
okay. So it's work in progress, Senator. We'll keep you updated.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Senator Kidani.
Thank you, Phyllis. My question is, in following up with Senator De La Cruz's question, how we, look at developing farmers to continue our food production here in the islands. Have you reached out to the high school ag teachers to see what their needs are? And now that we passed a bill to do curriculum, career technical education in the high schools, that the ag industry, could be included in this. So I just wondered if you had been able to reach out or do any surveys at the high school level.
Thank you for that question, Senator Kidani. Like I previously mentioned, the department has a seat at the Department of Labor Industrial Relations Ag Workforce Development Board. And so us participating on that Ag Workforce Development Board, we get to interact with Future Farmers of America, all the chapters. They participate in offering proposals for workforce development there. And so we get to see what proposals, ideas they're requesting statewide, including there's been an active engagement with the Waipahu high school and the middle school, their academies, on getting funding from the state for their projects. And so through our participation with that Workforce Development Board, I mean, that's how we get information and communication with DOE's ag science and technical career programs.
I guess to go further, then my question is there any kind of, how does that get relayed to all the middle schools or high schools that are interested in ag programs? because they're not all participating on that workforce development board. So is there something, a handout or something that the department may have to let the teachers know, the ag teachers know, or this, you know?
Like I said, we've worked through Department of Labor to get the information out. We also have funded 4-H programs in the past for their projects, and we have a representative with the school garden Hui network too. So that's how we keep in touch. But we can always improve our communication, and we can work on something to improve that communication with the CTE program at Department of Education. Through our Farm to State program, we have communication, exchange of our information to buy local with commitment schools.
Thank you. I'm just thinking that if we want to make sure that we continue to interest students in farming, that they have to know where this pipeline of information is and where they go to. And if the teachers are not passing it on to them or not getting the information to sustain the programs in the schools, then I think we're missing out on that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Well received. Thank you.
Senator Nishihara.
Phyllis, I chair public safety, so there are some programs that within the different institutions that look at doing some agricultural kind of work. Have you ever engaged with the public safety people about how the DOA could help with that or get something going?
Previously, before the pandemic, I did get introduced by the coordinator for the juvenile correction facilities, and we talked briefly on the Big Island at the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council annual meeting. And so, he shared that, ag vocation was, a good way to heal and rehabilitate, his juvenile his wards in his facility. So he was trying to get them, to get the skills to grow things, grow food. And so we did make contact there. And we are aware through our Farm to State program that, certain correctional facilities have their own farms. But we got sidetracked because of the pandemic and the priority to keep our workforce at Department of Ag safe. And so that communication didn't get sustained because we got distracted with complying with all the COVID-related procedures.
Thank you.
But, Senator Nishihara, I can try and open up that chain of communication based on your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.